Hello, my name is CJ Lovik. Now, some of you are probably wondering why I am stuck on the 70 AD prophetic disclosure we've discovered in Ezekiel 4. Most of you are probably thinking to yourself, I think we got it, CJ. Isn't it time to move on? Well, the answer is no. Time to drill down so we don't make a mistake and miss any of the clues the Lord has put in front of us. There are still unanswered questions, and history has taught me that spending time in order to fully understand what it is you're disclosing reaps rewards that the hasty and the careless never experience. So I owe it to you, and I owe it to the Lord to get this right. This is probably going to be the most challenging update video that I've ever produced so far, and you are about to find out why. There is a mystery in the Ezekiel 7 times 7 times 40 year prophecy that we might miss if we are not paying attention. I'm calling this the double Jubilee miracle revealed in Ezekiel chapter 4. 6 months ago, I produced the YouTube video titled 2023 End Times Prophecy, 70th Week of Daniel Revealed. I invite you to take a look at this video again, as it contains a clue that I am now ready to fully disclose. If you check the video going forward 32 minutes and 20 seconds and watch about 15 seconds, you will see the clue I put on the video that I only partially understood at the time, but with red flags waving, I realized that there was a Jubilee mystery and a missing sabbatical year just waiting to be uncovered before we rush to judgment. Perhaps you have noticed that I have hinted at this as I asked the question about the missing sabbatical year as the 5,999-year duration of time between the sabbatical cycle that began in 3970 BC and the time duration that landed on 2030 AD was 1 year short of the 6,000 years required to end the sixth day, each day being reckoned by God as 1,000 years. I was reminded that God's timing for his 7,000-year sabbatical cycle is perfect and was based on exactly 7,000 years or 1,000 weeks of 7 years. In other words, the 6,000 and 7,000-year dispensational count are based on sabbatical cycles alone and nothing else. And although 6,000 is not divisible by 7, and it seems impossible to figure out how in the world the Lord is going to solve that problem, solve it he did. And I am so pleased and delighted to share the tiny glimpse I have been given into the amazing mathematical mind of God. So if you've been wondering why I've not put up the year 2023 as the start date for the 70th week of Daniel, or 2030 AD as the end date, now you know why. So let's keep this simple. If I go forward from the start date for the first sabbatical 7-year cycle starting at 3970 BC, the year after the sin event, and going forward 7,000 years, I land on the date 3031 AD. If I then go backwards in time 1,000 years from 3031 AD, you land on the date 2031 AD, not 2030. Obviously, based on this simple math, the year 2031 AD launches the 1,000-year millennial reign of Yahshua, not 2030. So it is time to recheck our presuppositions, or at least mine, as getting this right the first time in these last days is critically important. Now let's bring into the equation the fact that the 2023 and the 2030 are both proven sabbatical years that started on the creation date of 4005. That does not change. So how do we reconcile this math puzzle? If you go backwards in time from 2031 and you end up on 2024, which is the year after the start of the 2023 sabbatical 7-year cycle, what's the matter? You may wonder what's going on. Is this an epic fail? In order to reconcile this, you would have to begin the 70th week of Daniel in 2024. Now, if 2023 is the beginning of the 7-year sabbatical cycle, which it is, then how is this possible? This could only happen if a Jubilee year starting on Tishri 10, 2023, and ending Tishri 10, 2024, was followed by a Jubilee year that began Tishri 10, 2030, ending Tishri 10, 2031. But is this even possible? So it's true. This does look impossible until you carefully look again at the amazing details of both the Jubilee cycle that begins with creation and the Jubilee cycle that is revealed in the 70 AD siege sign by Ezekiel the prophet. So now let me reveal the mystery of the double Jubilee. First, let's do a Jubilee check for the year 2023 based on the creation date of 4005. Remember to use your date duration calendar or you're going to get it wrong. Trust me, whenever you are checking between BC and AD, and until you have this down cold, use the date duration calendar. The year 2023 to 2024 is the 123rd year of Jubilee, based on the 4005 BC creation date. Let me show you how this works. 4005 BC plus 2022 years, which is equal to 2023 AD, is equal to 6,027. Divided by 49 equals 123 Jubilee cycles. 2023 AD is the end of a 49-year sabbatical cycle. In other words, we have a Jubilee year starting on Tishri 10, 2023, ending on Tishri 10, 2024. Now that is amazing. And to put a cherry on top, when you check the year 2023 based on the children of Israel's crossing into the Promised Land in 1408 BC, here is what you get. 1408 plus 2022 years, which is equal to 2023 AD, equals 3,430 years divided by 49 equals 70 Jubilees. The 70th Jubilee begins in 2023 and ends in 2024. Now here is what becomes miraculous as we see the Lord's hand controlling his calendar as it reveals another Jubilee cycle that was designed to forecast the exact Jubilee cycle that would usher believing Jews into the Messianic kingdom. Tishri 10, 2030 begins the 40th Jubilee year that comes to an end on Tishri 10, 2031, based on the 70 AD siege of Jerusalem sign. The duration of time between the 70 AD siege sign and the cross event of 30 AD is 40 years. Multiplied by 7 times 7, which is 49, equals 1,960 years. 40 plus 49 equals 960, plus the 70 AD siege of Jerusalem brings you to 2030 AD. The Jubilee begins in the fall of 2030 AD with the trumpet blast of the shofar and comes to its conclusion in the fall of 2031 AD. We just assumed that Ezekiel was prophesying the end of the 70th week of Daniel in 2030, but actually he was prophesying that 2030 was going to usher in a Jubilee year that would end on the Roman calendar in the fall season of 2031. And that is when we can expect the Lord to usher in the 1,000-year millennial reign of Messiah that must end exactly 1,000 years later in the fall of the year 3031. I am amazed at how the Lord did that. I know that many of you had an expectation, based on our current events and other prophetic perspectives, that 2023 was going to be the year that the time allotted for the called-out assembly, that's us, will expire, and we will be glorified and taken up to be with the Lord. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, as I am not timing the rapture of the church. I am timing the 70th week of Daniel, and my audience is my Lord's Jewish brethren that I hope will come spiritually alive as they recognize the majesty of the Savior they once rejected and now embrace in faith, believing Yeshua HaMashiach. So what I am saying is that for over 10 years I've been focused on God's prophetic calendar, not current events. Numbers do not lie, and the numbers I am looking at reveal that the appointed time for the 70th week of Daniel will begin after the Jubilee year comes to an end in the fall of 2024, and 7 years later in the fall of 2031, a 7-year period. In that time, Jacob's trouble will come to an end. Now, I know this is not what a lot of you wanted to hear, but my job is to search the Scriptures and do my very best to honestly report where we are on God's 7,000-year calendar for man. I'm excited to see what happens this fall, but I will not be disappointed if I am still here, as my personal expectation based on the Ezekiel 4 prophecy is that the time of Jacob's trouble will begin in the fall of 2024, although I could be called by my Lord to meet him in the air at any time. I will not be perplexed or disappointed if we are still here in 2024. In future updates, I will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have correctly identified the sabbatical cycle that began on the first day of creation. That proof has been many years in the process, and I am excited to share it with you. Time to wrap this up. I look forward to our next update coming soon. In the meantime, Maranatha.